We have a stunning fact here about the general election from the LA Times, and it may be an indicator of things to come. So they say the Clinton campaign and its allies are airing just over $23 million in television ads in 8 potential battleground states: Nevada, Colorado, Iowa, Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, and New Hampshire, according to data released by NBC News. The Trump campaign spending $0 in these swing states. What? Look, we all knew that in the classic way, the traditional way to run a campaign, Trump didn't know what he was doing. I didn't know it was this bad. He famously said after Iowa, when he came in second, when all the polls showed him winning, what's a ground game? So ground game, of course, is having campaign people on the ground, getting out the vote, being intimate in the actual state. So Trump was leading in all the polls, but he ended up losing. Well, who ended up winning? Ted Cruz, who was in second in the polls. Why? One of the main reasons, I mean, other than the obvious that he's an evangelical Christian and it's a super religious state, yada, yada, is that he had people on the ground getting out the vote, or in this case, getting out to caucus for Ted Cruz. So this is something that has been Trump's problem from the beginning. Now, in some ways, it's an asset because he gets to say, I'm not raising as much money as the other people, so I'm not as bought as they are. He can spin it into a positive for him. But in terms of whether or not you're putting yourself at a disadvantage when it gets down to the brass tacks of it, oh, you definitely are. Because if you're not running ads in battleground states, that means that you're relying 100% on the media and on the airwaves for you to get on there and you to spread your message in interviews and stuff like that. Well, the problem with that is that's not guaranteed. So Trump has had way more coverage than everybody else, for sure. He's had much more free media. But it's not guaranteed that you'll continue to get that free media. And then also, the nature of the coverage is important too. So if it's wall-to-wall people shitting on you now, which it largely is, well, then, that could drive your poll numbers down. Now, sometimes it has the opposite effect, and it drives his poll numbers up because they attack him on stupid stuff, like him being, allegedly politically incorrect. But sometimes if they're attacking him on stuff that actually has a grain of truth in it, and it's because he says some crazy shit, well, then, yeah, that could drive his poll numbers down. So relying just on the media, I don't know if that's a winning strategy. I don't know. Donald Trump has defied all odds to this point, being able to even get the nomination in the first place. I saw that coming. I saw that coming from a mile away. I famously predicted it that he would win after only 3 states voted. So it's not like my meter's off on Trump. I've kind of been spot on from the beginning, except from the very, very beginning when I dismissed him like everybody else. But very quickly I flipped thereafter. But for a general election, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if you could do the same things and just coast to victory, because it is true that the Republican primary electorate is a much smaller percentage of the population than the general election electorate, which you're obviously going to need in order to win. So you guys know I've gone back and forth. There are times where I had Trump as the favorite in the general election to win because the polls showed that he was the fucking favorite there for a brief amount of time, and he was running a better campaign. Over time, the polls shifted. You got to keep it real. It is what it is. We covered the story the other day. Now Hillary in some polls has over a 10-point lead on him. The lowest one I've seen is a 7-point lead. Trump now has record 70% unfavorables. I've never seen that before in my life. So... look, is it possible we keep having the yo-yo? Yes. In fact, I think we will continue to still have the yo-yo effect where they go up and down and up and down. I don't think it's permanent that he's down and he'll stay down the entire time. But if he doesn't get a traditional campaign in order, and really $0 you're spending in the swing states on ads? That's ridiculous. That's beyond ridiculous. If you don't start doing some of the traditional stuff right, it could be a landslide in the other direction. Okay, it could be a landslide that Hillary Clinton ends up winning, as much as, people, I think, rightly despise her. And then also, there's another angle to this story as well. Corey Lewandowski, who was Trump's campaign manager from the beginning, was just fired. That's a sign. That's a sign that they know internally they feel the pressure and they're like, whoa, there's a lot of evidence now that we ain't doing so well, and the forecast is not very good. Now, there are other things that go into it. There are talks about how Trump's daughter wanted him fired for a long time, and there's a million things that could go on behind the scenes. But Corey Lewandowski was everything to Trump. He was his campaign manager, and Trump, they say this in the article that I was reading on it yesterday. Trump literally doesn't carry around a cell phone. It doesn't read the newspapers and doesn't watch TV. So his only source of information is Corey Lewandowski. And Corey Lewandowski famously had the position, let Trump be Trump in order to win. He thinks, if this guy just goes out there and speaks his mind, we think he can win. That worked in the primary. He was 100% right. Now they're moving away from that strategy for the general because apparently they see enough evidence where they go, maybe you shouldn't be you. So they're letting him go. They're bringing somebody else in. And honestly, on that aspect of it, I have a different takeaway from other people. So other people be, you got to fire that guy and you got to, run in a different way. No, my take is, if Trump wants to win, he needs to start doing traditional stuff better, like running ads in swing states. Duh! Like, that should be obvious. But I actually wouldn't have fired Corey Lewandowski. Because Corey Lewandowski was actually right when everybody else was wrong. When everybody's like, are you kidding me? This dude can't be himself. And he's like, no, seriously, let him be himself. He'll win. He won. He fucking won. Corey Lewandowski was right. So, now, again, maybe that's a different story for the general election. But I honestly think Trump's best chance is to stick with the formula that won in the primary. Now, again, granted, the general election voters are much different. But any chance he has, he would have if he doesn't radically change what he's been doing. He should stick to what he's been doing, but then also just step up the traditional aspects of his campaign, like spending money on ads in swing states. That would be pretty important if you want to have any chance at all. And finally, let me just say this. From a practical standpoint, this hurts his chances massively, okay, that he's not spending on ads in swing states. But from a more objective macro picture standpoint, if liberals look at this and they start gloating over it, like, he can't raise money, you all are massive hypocrites. Like, I'm just telling you practically it's going to hurt him. I'm not making a moral judgment or an ethical judgment on the fact that he's not raising as much money. Because, in fact, the moral judgment and the ethical judgment in my mind is the opposite. He should get a pat on the back for not raising as much money. Now, I get it. He wants to, and they just don't want to buy him. Like, the donors are like, fuck you, we don't know if we could trust you, so we're not going to be corrupt with you, and we're not going to bribe you. So he wants to partake in that system, but he's not able to because they don't like him. But still, less money is always better. To gloat about Trump not raising as much money inherently praises Hillary Clinton for raising more money. If you're praising her for raising more money, then you love the corruption. You love the bribery. I don't. I want to see all the money out of the system. So this isn't an area. I've seen so many headlines on Huffington Post of all places. I forget exactly what the wording was, but the implication was, Trump's collapsing or it had money problems, yada, yada. And it's like, okay, but that's not, if anything, maybe you should add in those articles the line about how, and oh yeah, by the way, all the money should be out of the political system anyway, and there's an angle of this that's good, that he's not raising as much money from donors. Like, all of a sudden, what? All liberals are supposed to align with fucking corporate donors and say, yeah, we agree with you. No, fuck those guys. Fuck those guys. Fuck them. Fuck them. I fucking hate them. None of them should be involved in the political process in the sense that they buy these elections. So that's not a line of attack. Like, I feel like people think they're gloating about it, like Hillary Clinton can come out in the debates and say, he hasn't even raised any money from Wall Street. What an idiot. No, if you say that to Bernie Sanders, what would everybody's response be? Yeah, that's good. Why would that be a bad thing? That's a good thing. What are you talking about? Yeah, we want our politicians not bought. But now, since it's Trump, people are gloating in the opposite direction, like, oh, yeah, see, it shows he can't play ball. Don't you want somebody not to play ball? The fuck is this? Don't be hypocrites. Don't be stupid. Okay, don't be stupid. It's one thing to talk about the practical implications of not running ads in swing states and not being able to raise money. That just hurts your chances, period. But it's another thing to then conclude that morally and ethically, he's wrong. No, it would actually be that he's right in not raising as much money because I don't want any politicians to raise any money.